Hello and welcome to another episode of Test Chamber. I am Joe Juba. I am joined by Kim Wallace.
Hello.
And we are taking a look at The Last Guardian.
Wait, is this real?
At long last.
Is this really happening?
After years of development and some delays and sort of uncertain status, this game, I always think it's interesting too that like within a week or like a week apart, this game and Final Fantasy 15, these sort of like long running up in the air, is it going to happen? Isn't it games release? It feels kind of miraculous in 1 week to be playing these two games at the same time.
In time for the holidays too.
Yeah, exactly. So this is from the same minds that brought you the games Eco and Shadow of the Colossus. Mm-hmm. Very similar, as you'll see, a lot of similarities between those games, but this one is centered, like the core idea is centered on the bond between a boy who you control and this legendary monster called Trico, which we'll see here shortly.
What is Trico really? Because I've seen people call this thing flying dog, flying bird dog, flying. Like, do you ever find out? Like,
I mean, I think it's no one thing in particular. Uh-huh. It's a mythical beast like a manticore or a chimera. Mm-hmm. That's sort of, different. It's got elements of like cat, of dog, of bird. Which is why I like
every animal.
Yeah, which is actually why I like this beginning. This sort of
this is cool.
Or like a griffin also. Like I like that this beginning sort of shows some real animals and then gets to some more fantastical ones. Mm-hmm. And it there's Trico and it establishes it as sort of like this is where on the spectrum of real to imaginary. This is where these things are. But. So I have played through this game once already. Mm-hmm. So this is me starting over from the beginning. Kim, you got a chance to play some of this. You played a little bit of it recently, right? Yeah, actually, when I was in Japan around the time for Tokyo Game Show, Sony let us play about 45 minutes of it. So I got a taste of it then, and I was really excited by it because, like you said too, like this beast Trico. It just, in every scene that you're in with it, kind of just like takes your attention away towards it. Yeah, for sure. And just having that huge beast on screen with you is just kind of mesmerizing, kind of like the Colossus were in Shadow of the Colossus. Yeah. And there are a lot of ways in which this game feels like a combination of Ueda's previous games, where you're a young boy exploring these sort of ancient ruins that has a very sort of eco feeling to it. And then this beast, which is just huge, and you're climbing on it. It feels like they took the technology from Shadow of the Colossus and climbing in that and, sort of transferred it over.
Aww.
So yeah, from a story perspective, you're sort of dropped into this situation not knowing how you got here or how it's all in, what the monster's sort of involvement in all this is. And those are questions that, get answered as the game goes on. But, I just want to take this opportunity to point out, like, even this early in the game, I was pretty impressed by just how lifelike this monster is.
Yeah, that's what kept taking my attention when I was playing it away. Oh.
So it's like, it's clearly injured at this point. It's apprehensive. It doesn't know me.
Poor guy.
So we're sort of being careful around it.
It's okay. You're going to become best friends. I'm sure of it.
So what we're going to do...
Oh. It's okay. Oh.
All right. I forget what to do first. I'm gonna try to see if I can jump on it and get that spear out. I'm really blowing it.
Oh, whoa, whoa, oh no!
Okay, well, so that's not gonna happen first. What we're gonna do is back away. Let's see if I want some of this food. So
I think that's a good idea. Usually animals like food, right?
Yeah. It eats. It's weird. It eats these glowing barrel things.
Oh, poor guy. This game is just going to kill the animal lover in me, isn't it?
Well,
he gets hurt. Oh gosh.
I don't want to spoil anything one way or the other about it. But suffice it to say that like you definitely one of the remarkable things that this game does very well is to basically like build a bond between between you and that and Trico, and the fact that the monster is as lifelike as it is, I think really helps. Like it's one thing to have a game with an animal in it, like let's say Shadow of the Colossus, right? That has the horse aggro, which it's a horse and it behaves like you expect a video game horse to behave, but it's hard to say that aggro has its own personality. Whereas, just seeing the way its ears go up and down, the way it cocks its head, the way Trico sort of moves is definitely more.
That was man. We're just trying to help here. Poor guy.
Okay.
I don't think his previous owner treated him well.
That's probable. Okay, so there we go. Gonna get this barrel here.
So a lot of like what I remember when I played with the demo is a lot of figuring out what to do by going through the environment and trying, just to play around with what's around you. The game gives you little hints, but it's pretty much up to you where you experiment and
that works in the game's favor sometimes and works against it sometimes. Here, we're going to try and get this. There we go. Because, like, there are times when it has puzzle elements, and that's fun. Like, figuring out, you see the problem that needs to be solved.
Oh.
Yikes.
Ow.
You see the problem that needs to be solved, and then you, like, try to figure out how to do it. And those parts can be fun. The parts that are less fun is when you don't necessarily even see the obstacle in front. It's like, okay, I'm in a room. I don't think I can do anything in this room. How do I get out of here? And some of those times that you get that feeling of like when you finally find the ledge you're supposed to grab or the hole you're supposed to like crawl through or something, it doesn't feel like you solved anything. It feels like, ugh, I wish that had been clearer.
Yeah, that was one thing I was a little concerned about. I like, to experiment and figure things out on my own, but sometimes I noticed from the little I played, it wasn't always super clear, what was in front of you to put together always.
Yeah. Are you going to let me grab it this time, buddy?
Oh, man. Poor guy.
All right, is there another spear, or do I just feed it?
Does it keep giving you little hints like this as you go along, or do they go away? Because from what I played, they still kind of had the little like jump here, or
Yeah, it keeps giving you hints over time, and if you don't know what you should be doing, you can hold the left stick. Oh, there we go. So it's got all its food. You can hold down the left stick and you do this like little meditation, and that gives you the last prompt Like that. Okay, so we already got his food. We did that a little out of order. So yeah, he eats those barrels and whatever's inside of them. All right, he seems a little more chill now.
Oh, poor guy. Feel bad for him.
Yeah. All right, so he's not hollering at me. So I'll get up here and grab that thing.
Oh boy. Oh, dude, we're just trying to help you. It's like me and my cat wrestling when I try to cut his nails. It's like, I'm just trying to make you feel better.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I mean that you can tell even from that sequence that there's just something about the way the team here brings that monster to life that is like in my opinion is really what you're getting from this game that you won't find anywhere else.
Exactly. It's unlike I said, even from unlike anything else that I've ever played, and that, like I said, that beast just kind of. I was constantly wondering, what is he doing in the background? Or even when he walks away from you to kind of go do his own thing, it's like, well, I want to see what Trico's doing.
Yeah. So there's something about that that makes it, in my mind, that's why this game is worth playing, is to see this creature come to life and to sort of see how the bond forms between the boy or you as a player and this this virtual pet basically, because that is something that you just can't find as well done anywhere else. With that being said, because I wanted to start on a positive note. People have been waiting for this game for a long time, and if you want to know that this game is worth it or does something well, I mean, I think that's what it does well, and that it's worth playing because of it. But with that being said, there are definitely some elements of this game that are frustrating also. And in some cases, you can sort of feel the game's long development cycle in that, some of the way the platforming or puzzles work just don't feel particularly modern, or they feel maybe a little too repetitive.
How would you say control-wise? Because I know the other games have gotten some criticism for not having the most friendly controls. I remember getting thrown off of, the backs of the Colossus and everything, and being like, I just wanted to stay on. How would you say this kind of compares for people who are concerned about that? Yeah,
well, it's actually kind of, there are two facets to it that I think are interesting. One is, I think the sense of weight and momentum that you and the monster have are are well executed. So for however wonky a climb might be or something, just the way it feels as you're running around is the way you switch directions here quickly. You see him sort of stumble as he does that, or the things as you start to move and he does that, or if you sort of go in a lot of directions, he gets a little anxious and he does a little foot tap thing, things like that. The animation and conveying believability through that, I think, is really well done. And the way it gives you a sense of your own weight and movement. But with all that being said, there are also times where, say, most of the problems come through with some imprecise platforming, where you think, in a case like this, say that you think you should be able to make a jump and then you do it and it feels like you should have made it, but for some reason you didn't. That's not a pervasive problem, but it's it's an issue that crops up. The bigger issue, we're not going to get this far in our playthrough of it, but you eventually get the ability to direct Trico.
Yeah, I remember that from my demo.
So as it is right now, we can just call Trico hey, come to where I am, and then he'll do it. And then,
but he doesn't always listen. Feel
right, and that's where the problem comes in, is that when you do get the ability to be like, hey, Trico, like jump up there, I want you to jump up to that thing, sometimes he just won't do it, or it takes 4 times before he actually listens to you, which, like, there is an element of realism there, because, like, okay, like I have a dog. He doesn't do exactly what I tell him when I tell him all the time. But just because it's realistic in that regard doesn't mean that it's fun or a good game.
Yeah,
in that sense,
like frustrating. That was something I noticed when I played, and I was like, gosh, I hope this is not as big of an issue as I think it could be, and you get in there and you're like, because there's definitely some cases where I just like, all right, he's not going to do what I say, because he's supposed to be an animal and they're trying to convey that. But then at the same time, when you're playing and you're going through trying to figure something out, you're like, well, did I just not get the solution right? Or what do I need to do to get him to do this? Which can be a little frustrating.
Right. And that's really where it gets to be a problem, is that if it were just a question of, gee, I wish that he were a little more responsive, it would be easier to look past. But it actually sort of gets in your way of progression, because you try something, it doesn't work, so then you go try something else. But what you didn't realize is that you just needed to try that thing a few more times before Trico would actually like do what you told him. There was one time later in the game where I was like, there's this sequence of jumps that he needs to do. So he does like 3 jumps, and then there's this final jump onto like up on a ledge. And he'd made the other jumps, and then I kept going like, okay, buddy, let's go. Let's do the last jump. Let's do the last jump. And he didn't do it. And instead he just turned around and went back the way he came. So I was like, maybe I'm not supposed to do this here or something. But I tried it again, and sure enough, he goes and he can make the jump. So it's the moments like that. And again, these aren't things that are pervasive. You don't run into that with every single situation, but it happens enough to make you just sort of to feel like it's getting in the way of your enjoyment of it. All right, so this new thing we got the shield. And the shield, well, wait a minute. Eat this thing, buddy. Come on. No, not that. Put it away. Grab the barrel. Why won't he grab the barrel?
It's stuck.
There we go.
Oh.
Okay.
He's got to do it.
All right, so we have this weird shield thing, and here's what that does.
Ooh.
You shine it, and it's... and then Trico's tail shoots lightning at wherever that's shining.
Oh.
But it's weird because you get the sense that it's sort of operating independently of like Trico. Like he's not doing it consciously. You don't see him like rearing up and getting ready to fire. It's almost like his tail kind of has a mind of its own. But another thing I want to point out, just as far as, the monster feeling like it has life, like just look at the scale of this thing in here.
Wow.
And the way it's not perfect all the time, but like the way it moves through the environment, like it's not scripted. It is it is able to move around and interact with the environment sort of freely. And the way it does that, and the way they pull off this like sense of scale and making it feel like it belongs in this world, I think is really something that's special. But here we go. We're going to shoot the lightning at that. And there we go. Or I love looking back at times like this too, when it's like a little sort of corridor. And you're like, come here, buddy. And again, just seeing how it like moves through the world, knocks things around. It starts to get a little shaky like control and camera wise, if you try and do too much like getting underfoot, I don't recommend that, because then that kind of stuff happens.
So are they Trico eats people, they're saying?
Yeah. So in this world, they know about, like, in the same way that we would know about griffins or manticores or something.
Yeah.
That this is a monster that is known as a man-eating monster. Let's get those out of the way.
That's convenient.
Yeah, the lightning's pretty helpful.
Ooh.
Sort of move around it. I think he can come along. Come on, buddy. I ended up calling him Buddy a lot.
That just looks amazing.
Yeah. And again, like I'm not a game developer. I don't know about the technical challenges that these games face on that level, but I imagine that must be one of the major reasons that it took as long as it did, is just to just to make this feel natural and to not have him, glitching out all over the environment all the time and stuff like that. I think is something else.
Ooh, go for a swim.
Let's see if he'll make the leap. Where is he?
To the right. Up.
There he is. Come on, bud. He'll do it. So that's something. If there was a lot of the storytelling in other in like Eco in particular, like they don't give you a lot of subtitles, especially for like Yorda and her language. You're just sort of left in the dark on. And they give you enough of the language here so you like understand what you need to do if they need to, give you a hint or something, because it's sort of presented like a framed narrative. Like whoever the boy is grows up to be a man because it's a man sort of telling this story. So I forget where I was going with that. Right. So they only use language as like that storytelling device to sort of give you a hint of where you might need to be going. What's his deal?
He doesn't like water.
Well, let's do something. Let's try and help him so he doesn't need to do it. There we go.
Bet you if you find food.
Let's see, is there... So I played, like, I played through the whole game, and now I'm like, I don't remember the early parts of it. Oh, there we go. That looks like a thing that we should be able to break. And this is sort of another criticism I had of the game was like if you've played Eco or any number of other like similar kind of platformers, there's this idea of like a lot of what you're doing in this game starts to feel samey. Like like you're doing a lot of like climbing on chains, shimmying across ledges. Even in this early part is sort of like okay, I can't go anywhere, let's use lightning to break the door and then I can go somewhere. And it's not that those things are necessarily bad, of course, but it's basically where the problem comes in is just like the amount and the frequency that it kind of feels like you're doing a lot of let's go into this room, let's pull the switch which opens a door so then Trico can also get into the room, and then I'm going to use him to help me get up to a ledge I can't reach. And that general formula works for a lot of like that is the general solution to a lot of different rooms, you know. And that gets a little bit more complex in terms of like, okay, how do I get to the switch to pull the switch and stuff like that, but that repetition ended up sort of ultimately combined with some of the spotty control elements to not be as satisfying. Okay, so I need to get this down there. It's full of those barrels that he likes.
Yes, lots with the barrels.
Yeah. And there are a few times too where it's like where he just refuses to do anything. Like Trico will just lay down and you need to feed him. And which is
like a true pet.
Yeah, which is kind of cute the first time it happens, and again, this is not something that happens all the time. But then, after it happens more than once, then you're just kind of like, oh, I guess I'm doing this again. Because whenever he does it, then it's just like, well, I need to scour the area and find a barrel that I can feed him.
I feel like you keep helping him out and he keeps knocking you over.
Yep, that's how it is. And that honestly is one of the good ways that they sort of like convey the size and the, you know, potential menace of a monster like this too. Is that like, it's not that it means to hurt you, but it's big enough that if you get in its way, it's going to knock you over. Which again helps it feel authentic, I guess.
So is there any sense of like, I guess we're talking about like stuff getting repetitive, but like progression within the gameplay elements, I guess? Like as you build your bond, do certain things just get more, any different, any easier maybe to get him to do things for you?
Maybe. I mean, I don't want to. That kind of gets a little further into spoiler territory that I don't want to talk too much about. Other than to say, like, that has previously not been a major part of, you know, of this team's games, right? Like, in Shadow of the Colossus, you get a little more stamina as you beat monsters, but it's not like you get a super upgraded sword after the third one and then a better one after the sixth Colossus or something, you know. Like, in general, your tool set to me feels like it stays like there are some additions here and there, but like it's generally pretty static. You're using the same kind of strategies no matter what, and the only thing that changes is really your ability to like right now I can only call him, but later I'd be able to say like, hey, there's a hole up on that wall, jump up on that wall so I can climb you and then I can reach that hole, you know. So you do start to get a little more control over Trico, but it's still maybe not. Like, I don't think he's listening to me. I'm telling him to do it.
You're stepping on his head. That's why he's like, what is this?
Yeah. But I also feel like we're at the point in the game, like I don't think their bond is enough that he will that it doesn't trust me.
Okay.
So yeah, I keep going back and forth because like I think I say he, but I don't know if they ever really specify.
That's what I was wondering. They never really do.
It might just be an it. But okay, it's telling me to. I want to get up on its head. Maybe.
Oh, he's still bleeding.
And then no. Oh, you can pet him. He likes that.
Aww. This game's gonna. Eco made me very emotional. So did Shadow to an extent. So I'm kind of expecting it's gonna be like that all over again for me. especially since I'm such an animal lover. Like, this just seems so cool with this building the bond. And you can tell there's something very authentic about it from the onset.
Yeah. And I'd be interested to hear what someone who like isn't or has never been a pet owner would have to say about it too. Because like, I've had a cat, I have a dog, and like there's something about just knowing what that like relationship or bond
exactly.
is like. But I feel like even if you don't already sort of are predisposed, like have a soft spot for it, there's just something really affecting about the way that, like the way that they give personality to this monster. And like to do it wordlessly too. Like I think that actually ends up helping it because like an animal's emotions and responses aren't as complicated as a human. So it might be easier to make them feel authentic rather than having to like write a bunch of dialogue that may or may not end up sounding a little bit clunky or, like their tools rather than dialogue are just like our animation.
Whoa.
And I think it ends up working pretty well.
Oh man.
So you can
like, you still need me. Kid.
Yeah, so he says he's going back to his village, but then it's like, we don't know where we are.
Oh boy.
And this sort of sums up, this is basically all you see of your general like goal for the game. It's like you get out of the cave, and then after that, your main thing is like, well, we need to get to the top of that tower. And that's generally sort of, that's, in short, what you're trying to do. But it's not easy.
So pretty.
He has wings, but you can see they're not doing their job.
Aww.
So
dun dun dun.
The nest. Huh. Yeah, it's kind of interesting looking around. You can sort of see, once you finish the game, some of these, some of this looks familiar. It's kind of funny. It's similar to the way that works in Eco also, where there's a sense of like continuity, that it's not just, even though it does kind of feel like you're moving from like one area to the next area. There are still times you can look down and see places that you've been before. Or maybe there are times when you, would revisit a place that you've already been or something like that. Doing our little ledge.
Looks like it's going to take us a while to get out of here.
Yeah. Maybe in the area of 12 hours or so.
Okay, that's a little longer than I expected, I think.
Yeah. I remember Eco as being a very compact and enjoyable, like 7 or 8 hours. This one is a little bit. I think is a little bit longer than it needs to be, and not I don't know that that's necessarily like a terrible knock against it or anything. But like I was saying before, with some of the sense of whoa, something fell down over there. Oh, he's following. Come on, buddy. With some of the puzzles feeling a little bit like samey or repetitive, it feels like some of that content might have been like, maybe you could call that a little. But on the other hand, having that amount of time is just more time that you have to like build the bond between the two characters too. So that also, like, it maybe works for and against the game in different ways.
Yeah.
And you can probably tell by the way I'm talking about it, I just have some sort of like strangely conflicting opinions about this game. And what it really comes down to for me is like, there are some parts of it that are frustrating, and ultimately though, through all of those kind of imperfections, there's still something that's, pretty something that's really interesting that manages to come through despite all of that, you know? And you know how people always joke, there we go. People always joke in like Uncharted about how you run to grab a ledge and you're going to grab the ledge and then it crumbles and then you fall to a different ledge. They definitely use that trick a fair bit in The Last Guardian too, or in things like that where something crumbles and then falls a little differently. But yeah, I mean, just seeing how it navigates the world and stuff. I spent so much time of this game just watching Trico move. That I think is...
Yeah, that's what I said struck me most during my demo was just how instantly I was like, could not stop looking at him and checking out what he was doing, or even just like positioning the camera so he's in the background so I could still see him while I was doing other stuff and how he was behaving within the environment.
And I can't tell if this is like a Shadow of the Colossus callback. You're sort of finding some salamanders and stuff in there, so I think that's kind of interesting. But... moments like this too are like, this is one of the first times like, oh, he's just trying to get through.
Oh, it's too cute. This game's so cute. I can't help it.
See, he's just trying to make it.
Oh,
of course he's not going to fit.
We gotta help him out.
Yeah, so we have to do what we can here. Pretty sure we're going up here for it.
So you think now without it, like, I guess we can't go into much about, but so even with the imperfection, you still felt, based on everything with the experience, that it's satisfying in that regard. Yeah.
It's the short answer is yes. This is a game that has that there are a lot of things to consider with it, and there are a lot of things that sort of work well, and some things that don't work as well. And some of that I think is the result of a long development. Some of that is the result of just like being really ambitious in how they approach it. And it's the kind of thing where like some of the risks pay off pretty well. But I think the biggest problem just ends up being like, you've made a game all about like this boy and this creature and their interactions. And when those interactions are as inconsistent as they are, like from a player control perspective, ultimately I think that ends up putting up the biggest barrier to enjoyment of it. I mean, like, to me, that was the most frustrating stuff, is when like I wanted something to happen and it didn't. But then not only that is because it didn't happen, I kept looking for other ways to approach the problem, and it turned out that there aren't other ways. There's just the one way that didn't work when I tried it, So okay, we're running around here a little bit. I know we need to get him in here, which means we need to get that gate open. Maybe. It's weird. I thought for sure there was a... we won't be able to do that. So there's like a hidden... So this is something... There's some like hidden barrel, like food barrels around. But I know they must do something. I have a theory that I don't want to talk about, but I know what it is. We just get him over here. He can make this jump, I think.
We found a spot for you to go. Do it, man.
Yeah. So I've called for him, and I'm pretty sure he's on his way. Yep, there he is. Yep. For me, I rarely had problems with the command that like, hey, come here. Like, I'm over here. Oh, that's
good, because I had problems with that in the demo, so I was hoping it got ironed out a bit.
Yeah, that command seemed to work for me. Where it got a little more sketchy was when it was like, we're in a place and I want you to do like a specific thing here.
Woo!
Hey, yeah.
There he is.
One thing that I think is interesting that I want to point out too is, man, like between the two previous games, the one that this is most similar to, I think, is Eco. It has, it's clearly incorporated some elements or technology from Shadow, but like the idea of being a boy in these like strange ruins, having to essentially escort someone or something, in this case, like through it, but then also in the way, we haven't even talked about like the way combat works.
There's combat?
Well, kind of. And that's like, think of it like Eco. Like in Eco, there was kind of combat in the way that like those shadow people would come and try and take Yorda, and you'd sort of like whack at them with sticks or whatever. But then if they caught Yorda, they would try and like pull her down into a portal. So I don't know if we're going to get to that in like the analog in this game, but there's something similar where there are, there are creatures that appear that, sort of, you don't really have a means of fighting them, but they do something similar where like they try and capture you. So where the fighting actually happens is with Trico.
That's what I thought.
So
he used to eat people. Well,
exactly. So he's, when there's a situation where you might be like overpowered or something, usually then you can like, part of the challenge is like getting it so Trico can come in there and fight for you.
Oh, nice.
All right, buddy. Where are we going? Gonna jump up there?
I'm calling it Trico Character of the Year.
You know what? I think so.
I don't doubt that. Like, I just sitting here, like, very lovable, I have some theories probably about that, they're setting stuff up that something's going to happen. I mean, you're creating a bond with this animal, as you go through, regardless of what happens to either or,
Yeah, I think that's obviously I'm not going to spoil anything, but I mean, I think they do a good job of juggling those sort of fears and expectations.
That's
of
good
like,
to know.
Because like you say, okay, this is a game all about a bond with a creature. So it's like, oh boy, are they gonna like, is Trico gonna die at the end and just like
that's what everybody immediately has been like on the internet.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just setting it up. Setting it up.
Except, but then you also have to wonder, like, does the team know that everyone's expecting that, and are they going to sort of like subvert those expectations or do something else unexpected and stuff? So yeah, I again, without spoiling anything, I
think that's why I said that I'm most interested in, is just to see, like, is it what we think, or is it something so different from that? Even if it is, I still, like I said, I'm sitting here just watching this this cool animal who I already just feel like every time we call him and he comes, I'm like, hey buddy, like you said, it's like just it's your friend. I mean, so many games how many games can you say I have this huge animal like this next to me? Yeah. And like I said, I think it captures very much, as we were saying, we're both pet owners, and just like, it just melts my heart. And I don't even think you have to, like you said, necessarily be to like feel just that, connection, which, games have such a hard time building up like authentic bonds. And I think it's really interesting with this, especially as you said, without dialogue really to even do this, and you just feel it like instantly.
Yeah. And I think that's also part of what I think that helps in this case a lot. Like not having the dialogue, I think actually sort of removes a barrier, because how much of your relationship with a pet is based on the conversations that you have.
Yeah, exactly. You may talk to them, but they don't talk back to you, unfortunately.
Yeah, versus like, versus relationships that you have with people that are much more nuanced. So I think it's, it is something that is within a game's power to convey in a way that doesn't feel clumsy. And it's also kind of cute. Like, okay, look at him. Sometimes Trico sort of like will zero in on things in the environment to sort of like give you a clue.
Yep. Oh, there's more food for him.
Yeah.
I like the idea too of just luring him with food like the whole way. I mean, I know it gets like is a different mechanic. But that's how you get pets to do stuff. I mean, I know better than anything. If I want my cat to do anything, I have to put the food out there to bait him.
Yep. And that's actually one of those, kind of like the one from before. I think that's just an extra. You don't have to get that barrel. Mm-hmm. But you can. We're not going to. So now, I don't think Trico can make that jump. Or maybe you can. Let's see. I think you probably can, actually. I heard him jump up onto something. Where is he?
So would you say this is like on par to how you felt with the other games, or would you say that this one you liked the best? I mean, I think it's so hard to like pick a favorite. Like, I'm more of an eco girl personally, but
yeah, I would say, man, that's really tricky. Mm-hmm. I think Shadow of the Colossus is probably my favorite. Mm-hmm. But like ranking them like that is so tough in this case though too, because like from a gameplay perspective, I think I would probably rather play Eco than Last Guardian, because like I think that the puzzles in that game were maybe a little more interesting, mm-hmm. and the locations were a little more interesting. But at the same time, like, seriously, that making this, like, making Trico come alive and, mm-hmm. and just like how believable that feels in this world and the sort of bond that they establish, I think like I said, it's just something you don't get anywhere mm-hmm. else. So again, my sort of divided mind on this game comes up again, in that like there are things to really like about this mm-hmm. game, but there are also parts of it that are just kind of frustrating sometimes.
But it's all worth it for Trico. I can tell. I can tell already. I'm telling you. You can tell it's worth a playthrough just for that alone.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to play through this regardless, right?
Yeah. I just was like, I kind of want to tackle it over like near the, I don't know, like I just want to be alone in a room with it, and not have any other distractions or any other games that I'm kind of playing, and just kind of have like that quiet, like I feel like even with other games I have to be in the right mindset for it, which is just like, okay, you're gonna sit here and have to figure out like how to get around each room, and they always start off really easy for me, and then you get to sometimes the harder puzzles and I'm just like, oh gosh.
Yeah.
Or my classic Kim is I miss a really important jump and have to do something all over again and just blow it, and then I'm like, God.
This game's pretty good with the checkpoints.
Oh, okay, good.
It doesn't leave you doing a whole lot of stuff over again. It also is you only have one save file, but it auto saves for you. See, so now this happens sometimes. Where it gets
no, right through the eye.
But it does again, like I don't think it holds it up.
Yeah.
And those sorts of occasions, I mean, so it happened here obviously, but like for as big as this is and for how detailed the world is mm-hmm. and sort of crowded it is, I'm surprised that it didn't happen more.
Yeah.
For me, there was, when on my first playthrough of the game, there was one noticeable spot where Trico basically got like caught up on the environment, and I had to like restart a checkpoint. He couldn't move. But beyond that, like I was more impressed, given like, I mean, we've all played games with AI companions, party members, and I mean, not even big animals or anything that mm-hmm. like, run into a tree and then just like keep running into the tree. And you
just don't go where they're supposed to go.
You have no idea what they're doing or why. And more than anything, I was impressed at how infrequently that
mm-hmm.
happened here.
No, that is kind of, if you think about how hard that is to get those AI like completely right or doing what they're supposed to and not having all the glitches, that is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
That's, as you said, that's probably what took them the longest, I would think, was just having to make sure Trico.
And I think there's something I was talking to our EIC Andy McNamara about this game a little bit because he was playing it too, and he had an analogy that I thought was kind of interesting, and that's basically like talking about this game kind of like as a like as one of the lunar landers or something that like one of those like NASA craft that like lands on the moon. It is well built for what it needs to do, but like it's not necessarily pretty along the way. Like at the end of the day it does something miraculous, right? Like at the end of the day that thing lands on the moon, but it doesn't necessarily do it with the most like finesse or style. Right. And I think that's sort of what he was saying about this game too, is that like at the end of the day it does something really interesting and worthwhile, but with some of the controls and the design, it's not necessarily taking the most stylish path there. Let's try and get him over here. So we just saw that he could make a jump like this. So I think that's my next trick is. Oh, one of the things I wanted to just bring up from a control perspective too is like whenever you jump on Trico, you just automatically grab. It's not Shadow of the Colossus where you need to like hold down the L1 button to maintain a grip or something like that, which is
nice.
Helpful.
Whoa!
And sometimes he just lets you take a ride. Oh, and here we're getting...
Those are the eyes. He doesn't like those.
Yeah, we saw that. Were those in the E3 demo maybe?
They're in the demo I played, I know.
Yeah, he doesn't...
You have to like shatter them for him to move forward.
Yeah, he doesn't like those things.
Ooh, it's getting creepy. It's like you're walking into danger.
Yeah, well, and this is one of the things too that I think is not to keep coming back to this point, but like you look at Trico's behavior and reactions to things, like something is bothering him right now.
Like the atmosphere has changed a little bit in that moment, like with the music and with how he was acting.
Yeah. And there's something that's I think is really interesting about, maybe, I don't know what you'd call it, like just maybe a more intuitive way to approach like your exploration, because it's not all about just like looking around and seeing like, oh, that thing looks bad. It's about like walking into a room and then all of a sudden you see Trico like having a reaction to something and you don't know exactly what it is, but like because you can read Trico's emotions and his responses, all of a sudden that starts giving you a clue of like, okay, there's something that I need to like, there's something that I should worry about here. And it kind of puts you on edge. It ends up being a pretty successful tool to kind of, build some suspense.
It's kind of cool too. They always say animals kind of sense things before we do, you know, and there you go.
Or, just things like this, how he like ducks his head under to get under a doorway. His eyes always sort of turn this like orange yellow when he's interested in something.
Oh yeah, I didn't even realize the eyes turned until you brought that up.
Yeah, and when he gets like when we saw him earlier, like when he was angry, like at the very beginning, his eyes are like pink, like a pinkish red thing.
Yeah.
So you start to sort of be able to read very specific emotions based on just like what color his eyes turn. Okay. So we clearly can't do that. And is there anything over here?
I like too that it takes you outside a bit so you're not just stuck.
Yeah. And there are times it's like, okay, so in an instance like this, you're sort of like, well, I can't go that way and I can't go that way. So what do I have open to me? There must be something here that I can do. So then you start looking around and you're like, oh, yeah, there are those windows up there I can get to. So then you start calling for him. There are a few points, again, sort of hitting on that sometimes where the design doesn't work as well is there are a few areas that actually have like kind of like red herring elements. So if you don't know how to progress, you might think something's important when it's not.
That's what I was worried about.
Or then we have some wonky camera stuff like that just happened. So again, not perfect, but all right. I think I should probably go to the other one. I think we're coming up on a decent stopping point here shortly too, which would be good. We're almost an hour into this. Time flies when you're having fun. But I should say the game doesn't give you like a counter, like you've been playing for this many hours. Mm-hmm. So I'm not totally sure how long it took. My best ballpark was in the 12-hour range, but I don't think you'll be blowing through it super. I don't think it's a 6 or 7 hour game.
Mm-hmm. Whoa!
Right.
Hey.
You can survive some surprisingly long falls.
Yeah.
Even I mean that was nothing. There are times when you're actually like a fall is so long that when you stand up, you're kind of hobbled for a little bit, like you're injured and you move more slowly, but then you shake it off and keep going. But there are some falls that I was glad that fall damage was not as important of a factor here, because it could have been a problem. Okay, so we're gonna set that down. Is this the first? This might be the first of many switches that we have to pull, many levers to pull to open doors.
Yep.
So
I think this is actually around the area that my demo started.
Oh, really?
Yeah. This is a.
Did your demo start after like waking up from something?
Yeah.
Do you remember? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? That's exactly where I was thinking we'd stop.
Oh,
so
yeah.
That works out pretty well.
Right on.
So we will get to the part that leads to you falling, needing to wake up from something. Come on, eat it.
Don't play with your food, man.
Eat it. There we go. There were times that I was like, so earlier, I didn't point it out, but like I threw a barrel and he caught it. And I was actually really impressed because on my playthrough, when I threw something at him in hopes that he would catch it, like food, because my dog can do that. So I throw it and it just hits him in the nose like a big idiot and bounces off. Like he didn't try to catch it any of the times that I tried it.
I was laughing because that was like one of the first things that I did actually in my demo that we got caught on tape was I threw it and I smacked him like right in the head and I was like, oh, I felt bad.
Yeah, you feel bad about it, but then I mean it's clear, when he was in the water before and I threw it at him, he caught it. Mm-hmm. So I guess he can sometimes. He just doesn't do it all the time. All right, so also kind of like Eco, you're running through these ruins that have these sort of, occasionally have these like weird kind of arcane devices. Mm-hmm. And you can tell from his reaction, there's something that he's uneasy about here.
Yeah, he's not happy. Ooh.
Whoop. Okay.
Dude, that was nice.
So, I'm fine down here.
Oh, is he gonna have to save your life?
We'll see. We'll see what happens.
He's telling you not to go.
I'm calling for him. Come on, buddy. Let's go.
He's probably thinking right now, what a dumb kid. I'm telling him not to do this, and he's doing it anyways.
Is he doing it? Oh, he's shaking like he's going.
Oh.
Okay, or is he just staring?
Nope, he's shaking the booty a little bit.
Okay, well, hey. Let's see what happens if we go over here. Come on.
Get over here. Oh.
All right, so now he's going to give it a shot.
Uh-oh. He's like, I warned you. Uh-oh.
What? So he doesn't seem like himself here.
He's possessed, man. Ah! Don't be mean.
There's nothing I can do about it. Hey, buddy.
No.
It's okay.
No, don't be like that. Oh, no.
And we're going to stop there. That's the first hour of The Last Guardian.
Game over.
Game over. The end. Thanks for watching.
You thought you were being friends with him. Nope.
And we'll see you next time.